I'm going to tell you about the single most expensive conversation of my life. It did not happen in a courtroom with lawyers flanking me like vultures. It did not happen during a divorce proceeding, nor did it happen in a confession booth. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon in 1967, in the warm, leather-scented air of my own shop, over a cup of lukewarm coffee that ultimately cost me a fortune. I was 47 years old. I had been running Benedetto's Fine Shoes and Repair for 15 years on Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn. I knew every crack in the sidewalk outside my door. I knew the rhythm of the neighborhood, the morning rush of commuters heads down against the wind, the midday lull where the dust motes danced in the window display, the evening fatigue of men dragging their feet home to dinners they were too tired to taste. Business was good, not Wall Street good, not buy a yacht good, but honest man good. I had scraped, saved, and denied myself every luxury for a decade. I was wearing shirts with frayed collars so my bank account could grow. I skipped vacations. I ate sandwiches for lunch standing up. And finally, I had enough. My landlord, Mr. Castellano, was a tired man. He had eyes that watered constantly and hands that shook. He wanted to retire to Florida to watch the greyhounds run and feel the sun on his face before he died. We had shaken hands, a gentleman's agreement, the old way, eye to eye, on a price for the building. It was a fair price. It was my dream. In 3 weeks, the papers were to be signed. I was 3 weeks away from stopping the rent checks and becoming the king of my own small castle. I could already feel the weight of the keys in my pocket. And then I made the mistake. The fatal error of the proud. I opened my mouth. His name was Vincent Mill. He wasn't a bad man, or so I thought. He was a regular. He came in every month for a shine and a heel check. He wore suits that were a little too shiny and drove a Cadillac that was a little too big for the narrow streets. But he tipped well and he laughed at my jokes. We talked about the Dodgers leaving Brooklyn as if it were a funeral we had both attended. We talked about the way the neighborhood was changing, the new faces, the old businesses closing down. I thought he was a friend. I thought we shared a history. So while I was buffing the toe of his wingtip, feeling the high of my secret victory, feeling the pride swell in my chest like a balloon, I let it slip. "Benny," I said, unable to keep the grin off my face. Glancing up at him. "Take a look around. You're looking at a future property owner. 3 weeks and I buy the building. Castellano and I shook on it. No more rent for Sal. I wanted him to be happy for me. I wanted validation. I wanted a witness to my success. I wanted someone to say, 'You did good, Sal.'" Vincent smiled. He congratulated me. He shook my hand, his grip firm and dry. He asked a few casual questions. "What's the asking price? Is the boiler good? How's the roof holding up?" And I answered them, full of hubris, full of the naive belief that everyone plays by the same rules of honor. 2 days later, the phone rang. It was Mr. Castellano. His voice was tight, apologetic, but firm. The voice of a man who has made a decision he knows is wrong, but is going to do anyway. "Sal," he said, "I'm sorry. The deal is off." I felt the blood drain from my face. My knees went weak. "What?" We shook hands. "The lawyer is drawing the papers." "I know," he said, and I could hear him lighting a cigarette on the other end. "But I got an offer this morning, cash, 20% over our price. Immediate closing, no inspections. I can't say no to that kind of money, Sal. I'm retiring. I need every dollar." I didn't have to ask. I knew. The knowledge hit me like a physical blow to the gut, but I asked anyway. "Who?" "Vincent Mill." Vincent Mill bought my building out from under me with the information I had hand-delivered to him. He didn't use a gun. He used my own words. He used my pride against me. For the next 8 years, until he flipped the building for a massive profit, Vincent was my landlord. He raised my rent twice. He refused to fix the leaky roof that dripped onto my workbench during every storm. He would come in for his shilling, sit in the chair, and smile at me. A smile that said, "You taught me how to beat you. You gave me the blueprint." I stood in the back of my shop that first night, surrounded by the smell of glue and failure, listening to the rain drip into a bucket, and I made a vow. I realized that my tongue was the most dangerous enemy I had. I realized that silence wasn't emptiness. It was a shield. That was the day I learned the law of silence. My name is Salvatore Benedetto. I am 106 years old. I have outlived my enemies, my friends, my wives, and even the building that Vincent bought. It's a coffee shop now. And today, I'm going to teach you the 7 things you must never, ever tell anyone. These are not suggestions. These are the survival mechanisms of a long life lived in a world that is not always kind. The first law, the ledger of envy, your finances. The first thing you must never tell anyone, not your neighbor, not your co-worker, not your cousin, is how much money you have. This seems obvious, doesn't it? It seems like common sense. Yet, in this modern world, I see people posting their salaries on the internet. I hear young men in coffee shops bragging about their cryptocurrency portfolios. I see people wearing their bank accounts on their wrists and driving their net worth down the highway, desperate for everyone to know the score. They think they are signaling success. They think they are earning respect. They are actually painting a target on their backs. When I was young, money was like your marital bed, private, sacred, and never discussed in mixed company. You didn't brag about having it, and you didn't weep about lacking it. That was dignity. That was self-respect. But let me tell you a story about a man named Thomas Whitfield to illustrate the cost of breaking this law. Thomas worked at the shipyard in the 1970s. He was a hard worker, a quiet man. Drove a Ford that had more rust than paint. He brought his lunch in a paper bag every day. In 1971, his maiden aunt died and left him $30,000. Now, $30,000 in 1971 was a fortune. It was change your life money. It was pay off the mortgage and send the kids to college money. It was security. Thomas was a good man, but he was naive. He was so excited, so relieved to be out from under the crushing weight of poverty that he told people. He wanted to share his relief. He didn't tell everyone. He just told a few guys at the bar after shift. He told his neighbor over the backyard fence while they were raking leaves. He told his brother-in-law at Sunday dinner over pot roast. Within 1 month, Thomas Whitfield was the loneliest man I knew. It started slowly. The brother-in-law had a can't-miss business idea involving vending machines. He didn't ask for a loan, he expected an investment. He framed it as an opportunity, but his eyes said it was an obligation. When Thomas hesitated, the air at the dinner table turned cold. "Oh, so you're too good for us now. You think you're a Rockefeller? You forget who helped you fix your roof." Then came the neighbor. It's killed me to braces. His roof was leaking. He didn't ask directly. He just leaned over the fence and sighed, talking loudly about how hard life was, waiting for Thomas to fill the silence with a check. He made Thomas feel guilty for having a dry roof. Coworkers expected him to buy every round of drinks. If he didn't, he was stingy. If he did, he was showing off. He couldn't win. People he hadn't heard from in 10 years suddenly called to catch up, and the conversation always, inevitably, circled around to their financial struggles. "It's been so tough, Tom. I don't know how I'm going to make rent." Thomas couldn't say no. He felt guilty. He felt that his luck was a burden he had to share. He felt that saying no made him a bad person. By the end of the year, the $30,000 was gone, vaporized into bad loans, gifts that were never appreciated, and investments that turned to dust. But here's the tragedy. The money was gone, but the resentment stayed. The brother-in-law hated him for losing the investment. The neighbor hated him because he eventually had to stop giving. The co-workers mocked him for being a fool who lost it all. "Easy come, easy go," they laughed. When you reveal your finances, you fundamentally alter the geometry of your relationships. You introduce a hierarchy that wasn't there before. You change the dynamic from friendship to transaction. If you have more than them, you breed envy. Envy is a silent poison. It makes people look for your flaws to balance the scales.
They want to see you stumble to prove that life is fair. They want to see you fail to validate their own lack of success. If you have less than them, you invite pity or judgment. They start questioning your choices. Why did he buy that coffee if he's broke? Why doesn't he work harder? You become a project to be managed, not a peer to be respected. There is no winning scenario. None. Keep your money in the dark. Your spouse needs to know. Your accountant needs to know. Maybe, when they are adults and you are preparing your will, your children need to know. Everyone else. It is none of their business. If someone asks you directly, and people are rude enough to do so, You look them in the eye. You smile a vague, pleasant smile, and you say, "We are doing fine, thank you. We have enough." And then you ask them about their children, deflect, distract, disappear. Your bank balance is the fuel for your life, not the entertainment for theirs. Keep the fuel in the tank, not on the billboard. The second law, the incubator, your unfinished plans. The second thing you must never tell anyone is your plan before it is finished. This is the lesson Vincent Mell taught me, but it goes deeper than just the risk of sabotage. It goes into the wiring of the human brain. It goes into the psychology of motivation. When you have a big plan, you're going to write a book, you're going to lose 50 pounds, you're going to start a business, you're going to learn Italian. There's a burning desire to share it. You want the applause. You want the good for you. You want the validation of your identity as a person who does things. But science has caught up to what old Italian grandmothers have known for centuries. Talking about it kills the drive to do it. When you tell someone, "I'm going to run a marathon," and they say, "Wow, that's amazing. You're so disciplined." Your brain releases dopamine. It gives you the reward of the accomplishment before you have even laced up your running shoes. You feel the satisfaction of the finish line while you're still sitting on the couch eating chips. And once you have the reward, the hunger to do the grueling, lonely, painful work evaporates. You have already tricked your brain into thinking the task is done. You have satisfied the ego without doing the labor. Furthermore, you invite the voice of the village. When I decided to marry Gloria, my second wife, I was 72 years old. She was 62. She was African American, and I was an old Italian man in a neighborhood that was stuck in 1950. A neighborhood where people sat on stoops and judged everything that walked by. I knew what people would say. I knew my son would object. I knew the neighbors would gossip. I knew the guys at the social club would make cracks. I knew the whispers would be cruel. If I had told them, "I am thinking of asking Gloria to marry me," they would have filled my head with noise. "Sal, are you crazy? Sal, think about the inheritance. Sal, stick to your own kind. Sal, you're too old for this." Their doubts would have become my doubts. Their fears would have infected my joy like a virus. I might have hesitated. I might have lost the courage to do the one thing that made the end of my life beautiful. I might have lost the courage to do the one thing that made the end of my life beautiful.
So I told no one. I bought the ring in secret. I took her to a quiet dinner in a part of the city where nobody knew us. I asked her. She said yes. And only then, only when the ring was on her finger and the date was set at City Hall, did I tell the world. When my son started to argue, when his face turned red and he started listing reasons why I shouldn't, I raised my hand and said, "It is done. We are getting married next Saturday. You can come and celebrate, or you can stay home. But you cannot vote. The polls are closed." Because the plan was executed, his opinion was irrelevant. He couldn't stop a moving train.
He could only decide whether to get on board or get left behind. Protect your plans like a candle flame in a windstorm. Cup your hands around them. Let them grow in the dark. Let the work happen in the silence. When the book is written, publish it. When the weight is lost, buy the new clothes. When the business is open, hang the sign. Let your results speak. Results are loud. Intentions are a whisper that nobody needs to hear. Intentions are cheap, action is expensive. There is an old saying, whoever speaks scatters. Whoever stays silent gathers. Gather your strength. Gather your resources. Gather your resolve. Do not scatter your energy to the wind for a moment of cheap validation. Keep your power concentrated until you strike. The third law, the king's ear, opinions on authority. The third thing you must never tell anyone is what you really think of your boss, your landlord, or anyone who holds power over your livelihood. I ran my own shop for 53 years, so I didn't have a boss in the traditional sense. But I had plenty of masters. I had the bank manager who held my loan. I had the city inspectors who could shut me down for a code violation. I had the suppliers who controlled my access to letter and glue. And I learned very quickly, you never, ever badmouth the king, because the king has spies everywhere. Even the walls have ears. In the late 70s, I hired a kid named Danny. Good hands, good stitcher, hard worker, but he had a loose tongue. He lacked the filter that keeps a man employed. We had a leather supplier named Mr. Ricci. Ricci was a tyrant. He was arrogant, he overcharged, he delivered late, and he acted like he was doing us a favor by taking our money. We all hated him. He was a bully in a cheap suit. Danny made the mistake of complaining about Ricci at the local deli while waiting for a sandwich. He was venting, he was loud. He didn't realize that in this town the walls always have ears. He called Ricci a crook and a few other colorful names involving his mother. He thought he was being funny. He thought he was safe. He was just blowing off steam to the guy slicing the ham. Well, the guy standing behind Danny in line, reading a newspaper, minding his own business, looking like nobody, was Ricci's nephew. 2 days later, Ricci cut off our supply. No explanation, just out of stock. For everyone else, plenty of leather. For Benedetto's shoes, dry as a bone. My orders piled up, my customers got angry. It almost killed my business. I had to scramble, pay double price from a distributor in Jersey, drive a rental truck myself to pick up hides, and beg favors to fulfill my orders. I lost sleep. I lost money. I had to let Danny go. Not because I disagreed with him. Ricci was a crook, but because Danny's mouth was a liability I couldn't afford to insure. He was a loose cannon on a wooden deck. Here is the truth about complaining. It feels good for about 30 seconds. It is a release valve. It feels like justice. But the cost is infinite. Words travel. They have wings. And they always find their way back to the person you least want to hear them. And when they arrive, they are usually distorted, amplified, and stripped of context. A minor gripe becomes a declaration of war. If you have a problem with your boss, tell your boss. If you can't tell your boss, tell your cat, tell your mirror. Write it in a journal and then burn the page. Scream into a pillow. But never tell a colleague. Never tell a friend at the office. Never tell someone in the industry. In the workplace, there are no friends. There are only allies of convenience. And if throwing you under the bus will get them ahead, if repeating your complaint will earn them favor with the boss, your secret venting session will be the ammunition they use. Be the person who is inscrutable. When everyone else is bitching about management, sip your coffee and say, "It's certainly a challenging week." Be bland. Be professional. Be a vault. Let others dig their own graves with their tongues. You keep your shovel in the shed. Maintain the discipline of silence, and you will outlast them all. The fourth law, the soft underbelly. Your weaknesses. The fourth thing you must never tell anyone is your deepest weakness or fear, unless you trust them with your life. Now, I hear what the modern psychologists say. They talk about vulnerability. They say we should open up, share our struggles, be authentic, show our wounds. And in a perfect world, filled with angels, that would be beautiful advice. But we do not live in a world of angels.
He told Paul over drinks, "I'm terrified of the presentation next month. I don't know if I can do it. I feel like a fraud." He was looking for reassurance. He was looking for a friend. A month later, a senior partner position opened up. Mario was the best candidate on paper. His numbers were flawless. But Paul went to the partners. He didn't say, "Mario is incompetent." No, he was subtler than that. He was Machiavellian. He said, "Mario is a genius with numbers, but I'm worried about his client-facing skills. He told me himself he crumbles under pressure. He said he feels like a fraud." We live in a world of humans, and humans are competitive, jealous, and opportunistic creatures. Humans are predators who smell blood. Giving the wrong person the map to your insecurities is like handing a burglar the blueprints to your house, complete with the alarm codes and the location of the safe. I had a friend, Mario Bianchi. We grew up together. Mario was a brilliant accountant, a wizard with numbers. But he had a crippling fear of public speaking. It wasn't just nerves, it was a phobia. He would shake, sweat, and feel like he was dying. He would vomit before meetings. Mario made the mistake of confiding this to a colleague, a man named Paul, who he thought was a mentor. We need a leader who can command a room, not someone who needs their hand held. Paul got the partnership, Mario stayed in the back office, wondering why he was passed over, wondering why his brilliance wasn't enough. Your fears are weaponizable. If you tell people you are insecure about your education, they will talk down to you. If you tell them you are afraid of confrontation, they will push your boundaries. If you tell them you are worried your marriage is failing, they will flirt with your spouse. If you tell them you are financially insecure, they will lowball you. I'm not saying you should be a stone wall. You need one or two people in this world who know the real you. Your partner, your best friend of 40 years, your priest. The people who have proven over decades that they will catch you when you fall. But everyone else, they get the armor. Present a face of competence. When you are terrified, stand straight. When you don't know the answer, say, I will look into that, with absolute confidence. When you are hurting, smile. Protect your soft underbelly. The world has sharp teeth, and it bites what bleeds. The fifth law, the vault, other people's secrets. The fifth thing you must never tell anyone is a secret that belongs to someone else. This one isn't about protecting yourself. It is about being a man or woman of value. It is about character. It is about the currency of trust. When someone tells you a secret, they are handing you a loaded gun. They are saying, I trust you not to shoot me with this. They are making themselves vulnerable to you. And what you do with that gun defines who you are. I have known men who couldn't keep a secret if their lives depended on it. They treated information like currency. They would trade a friend's embarrassment for a moment of attention at the bar. They wanted to be the guy who knew things. They wanted to be the center of the circle. Did you hear about Joey? You won't believe what Angela told me. And you know what happens to those men? They become social pariahs. Oh, people still talk to them. People still fish for information, but nobody trusts them. They end up with shallow relationships. They are surrounded by people but have no friends, because intimacy requires trust. And they have proven they are bankrupt. They are fundamentally unsafe. My wife Gloria told me things about her life, her past, her fears that I will take to my grave. Things that happened to her before she met me. Painful things. Even when we fought. And we fought. She was a fiery woman with a spirit like a thunderstorm. I never used her secrets as ammunition. I never told my friends, you know what Gloria did. Because her trust was a sacred thing. It was more valuable than winning an argument. It was the foundation of our house. If I cracked the foundation, the whole thing would fall. If you want to be a person of influence, a person of respect, be a vault. When someone says, can I tell you something in confidence? You lock that door and you throw away the key. You swallow the key. If someone else brings it up, you play dumb. I don't know anything about that, even if it makes you look stupid. Even if telling the secret would make you look smart or connected. Even if the secret is juicy and you are dying to share it. There is an immense power in being the person that everyone knows can keep their mouth shut. People will come to you. They will seek your counsel. They will respect you in a way that gossip mongers never experience. A secret is a heavy burden to carry, but it builds strong shoulders. Be the person who carries the weight without complaining. The sixth law, the long goodbye, leaving before you leave. The sixth thing you must never tell anyone is that you are thinking of leaving your job, your relationship, or your town until you are actually packing your bags. This is a specific type of plan that requires absolute silence. It is the exit strategy. I have seen people destroy their current reality by flirting with a future one publicly. They burn the bridge while they are still standing on it. Tell your boss you are thinking of looking for other opportunities and watch how fast you become invisible. You won't get the new projects. You won't get the training. You won't get the bonus. They will psychologically fire you before you have even found a new job. You become a lame duck. You become a risk. Tell your partner you are thinking about whether this is working, but stay in the house. You have just destroyed the foundation of security. You have introduced the idea of the ant. Every argument after that will be viewed through the lens of your departure. Is this it? Is he leaving now? You create a state of perpetual anxiety. You cannot live in the doorway. You are either in the room or you are out of it. I knew a woman, Catherine O'Brien, lived 3 doors down. She was unhappy in her marriage. Her husband was cold, distant, maybe a little mean. She told him she was considering a divorce. She thought it would be a wake-up call. She thought it would scare him into being a better husband. She thought it was a negotiation tactic. It did scare him. It scared him right into the arms of a lawyer. While she was considering, he was moving assets. While she was thinking, he was building a case for custody. While she was waiting for him to change, he was preparing for war. He didn't wait for her to decide. He made the decision for her, and because he had the element of surprise, even though she tipped her hand, he won. She lost the house. She lost her savings. If you're going to leave, leave. Make your plan. Save your money. Find the apartment. Get the job offer in writing. Consult the lawyer. And then, and only then, do you speak. I am resigning, effective in 2 weeks. I am leaving you. Here is the paperwork. Do not use your departure as a negotiating tactic.
Do not use it as a threat. Do not use it to get attention. It is a nuclear option. Once you press the button, the bomb goes off. You cannot put the explosion back in the casing. You cannot unring the bell. If you aren't ready to push the button, keep your finger off it and keep your mouth shut. Work on the problem or work on the exit strategy, but do it in silence. Protect your future by guarding your present. The 7th law, blood and laundry, family business. The 7th, and perhaps most important thing you must never tell anyone, is your family business. Every family is crazy. I don't care who you are. I don't care how perfect your Christmas card looks. I don't care how much money you have.
Every family has an alcoholic uncle, a sister who makes bad choices, a dispute over a will, a marriage that is hanging by a thread, a child who is struggling. That is normal. That is the human condition. Families are messy because people are messy. But what happens in your house must stay in your house. I see people venting about their spouses to their friends. He never helps. She's always nagging. He forgot our anniversary. I see people complaining about their kids to strangers. He's lazy. She's ungrateful. I don't know what to do with him. Here's the danger. You will forgive them. They are your blood.
You will fight. You will scream. And then you will hug and move on. You will remember the good times. Love will bridge the gap. But the audience, the neighbor you told, the coworker you vented to, the friend you cried on, they will not forgive. They will remember. You might make up with your husband next week, but your best friend will still look at him as the guy who made you cry. She will treat him with coldness. She will make snide comments. And that will cause tension in your friendship and your marriage. You have created an enemy where you needed an hour. You have poisoned the well. When my son Enzo stopped speaking to me for 2 years, over the marriage to Gloria, it broke my heart. It was a physical pain, like a stone in my chest that made it hard to breathe. I missed him every day. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell everyone how ungrateful he was. I wanted to tell the guys at the shop, look at what he is doing to his old man after everything I did for him. I wanted sympathy. I wanted to be the victim. But I didn't. I couldn't my mouth shut. When people asked, how's Enzo? We haven't seen him around. I swallowed the bile and said, he's busy, working hard, big lawyer now. He's got a big case. I protected his reputation even when he was attacking mine. Why? Because I knew, I hoped, I prayed that one day he would come back. And if I had spent 2 years trash-talking him to the neighborhood, his return would be impossible. He would be too ashamed. The neighbors would look at him with disgust. The bridge would be burned not by his absence, but by my words. I kept the door open by keeping my mouth shut, and when he did come back, when he knocked on my door one rainy Tuesday and stood there soaking wet, looking like a little boy again, asking to come in, there was no debris to clear away. No public apologies needed, no I told you so from the neighbors. Just a father and a son fixing what was broken in private. If I had turned our feud into public entertainment, I would have lost him forever. My pride would have cost me my son. Protect your people, even when you hate them, especially when you hate them. Because feelings change, anger fades, but words spoken to the world are written in stone. Don't let a temporary emotion cause permanent damage. The final wisdom: I am 106 years old. I have said millions of words in my life. I have told jokes. I have told stories. I have whispered, I love you, and shouted, get out. I have negotiated deals and comforted crying children. Most of those words were like leaves in the wind. They drifted away and didn't matter. They were just noise. But the words I regret, the ones that keep me up at night staring at the ceiling replaying the tape, are the ones I should have swallowed. The plan I bragged about to Vincent Mill, the secret I spilled when I was a young man trying to be cool, the criticism I voiced that crushed someone's spirit, the complaint I aired that cost me a friend. All of the damage in my life came from talking too much. None of it came from listening. None of it came from silence. I'm not telling you to be a monk or a hermit. I am telling you to be a strategist. I am telling you to be disciplined. Your life is a fortress. The walls are built of the things you do. But the gates are, keep your mouth. If you leave the gates open, the enemy will walk right in. They will steal your treasure, they will burn your plans, and they will salt your fields. They will use your own inventory against you. Keep the gates closed. Open them only for those who have the password. Open them only when you are ready to march out and conquer. Open them only for love and truth, not for ego and noise. Be unpredictable, be underestimated, be a mystery. In a world where everyone is screaming for attention, broadcasting every thought, tweeting every feeling, and vomiting their inner lives onto a screen for strangers to consume, the man who stays silent is the man who holds the power, because nobody knows what he is thinking. Nobody knows what he is planning. Nobody knows where he is weak, and nobody knows how to beat him. Take it from an old shoemaker who learned the hard way, who paid for his lessons with real estate and relationships. You can always say it later. You can never unsay it now. Silence is not empty. It is full of answers. Now, drink your coffee. It's getting cold. And don't tell anyone I told you this. Keep it between us. That's the first step.